I used every single tower, even event towers and technically admin towers, against the recently released Night 2, with only one tower slot for each of them. I went in order from top to bottom in the shop, with golden towers being the absolute last towers I used. Every tower over 1800 cost won't be used, cause you literally can't place them by the time you die. I'm also not using towers that do nothing, like Farm Commander or DJ, cause I don't feel like going AFK for 2 minutes. The first tower is the Scout, one of 2 free towers you get upon joining the game. Because of this, my hopes weren't high, but Scout surprisingly delivered. It's got some decent DPS for its cost, and it was able to wreck all of the early waves, even killing the 500 HP boss on wave 5 with some clutch Scout placements. And the quick 300 HP skulls on wave 6 were even closer. But wave 7 has an absolutely obscene amount of tanky enemies, and I died quickly, not even getting to attack this horde of enemies behind them. That makes the first tower, getting to wave 7 and setting a precedent. The sniper could be considered a sister tower of the scout, as they're both given to you when you join TDS. I placed multiple level 2 snipers due to their cost efficiency, and it quickly got overwhelmed by the army of 70 HP Hex Wraiths on wave 3. Wave 4, with its horde of bloated Hex Wraiths which have double the HP, was not even close. A sniper died with the wave skipping to 5 right before it did so. The next tower is Paintballer, which, as a crowd control tower, seems like it to get at least to wave 5, as all the early waves are hordes of enemies that Paintballer excels at. But no, it doesn't. Due to the pitiful explosive radius of Paintballer, it's basically just a single target tower with horrible damage for its cost. It leaked wave 1, off to a good start. It continued leaking enemies, slowly bleeding base HP until it died on wave 4 to the Hex Wraiths from wave 3. Demoman is a similar story. It is absolutely horrible garbage, and his mother should be ashamed of birthing such a horrible creature. It literally missed half of the shots it took. How does a TDS tower miss? Goddamn, bro, put the fries in the bag already. Actually, don't even work at McDonald's, because you throw the bags onto the fucking floor, dumbass. It died on wave 3 to some fast enemies it couldn't stop missing to. God. Hunter's pretty good, but long-range towers aren't very good for this event due to the rapid and crowded nature of spawns, and long-range towers are easier to overwhelm. Hunter was doing decently, but it died on wave 5 due to the aggro boss luring shots away from the approaching bloated Hex Rays. Soldier is amazing for early game. I can't sugarcoat it. It's just really, really good for early game and mid game. It's basically just Scout but better in every way. It blasted through wave 5, 6, and barely killed wave 7 with no room to spare. To be quite honest with you, wave 7 is just a massive difficulty spike for no reason. But whatever. The wave 8 Rotting Terror was killed handily, and wave 10 was also very close, but I lived. The wave 12 Conjurer came, but could Soldier beat it? It struggled with just the other assorted enemies, and the Conjurer started getting damaged super late into the track. I died, but it was close. That is all 6 beginner towers done. The average wave of this category is a wave 6, which is actually pretty good for towers that's cheap. The Crook Boss soloed the previous Night 1, and it definitely had a chance to get to a high wave. I went into the game and... Why does he look like Travis Scott? Fiend, 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 fiend. This was the start of a saga that continued for 6 more hours, and all men would bow down to the Fiend Overlords. Anyways, Crook Boss blasted through the early waves. Once again, wave 7 and wave 10 were really close, and wave 12 is here. Could Crook Boss triumph over Soldier? Well, yeah, easily. Wave 14 was also very close, and I had all 5 maxed Crook Bosses, so I couldn't do anything except just wait. The Conjurer leaked with 2000 HP, and I had to simply pray that the so-called Fiend Guards killed it before it summoned it once again. And it died. Wave 15 wasn't too hard, and Wave 16 came with 2 Conjurers, which is difficult on its own. But there's also a Hexasmal that is 27,000 HP, so that's like 40,000 total HP. Safe to say, Crook Boss died, and it wasn't even close. Medic is the next tower, and while I was playing, I checked my Discord and noticed I had a ping in TDS discussion. So I checked, and it turns out, in TDS discussion, from Out of Bears, TDS developer, at Platterbros Dank, no. What happened at 5:04 for him to respond to me no in TDS discussion? So I just went on with the stream and placed my medics, which unsurprisingly were not doing very well. Medic is so expensive and it does so little damage. And then, while I was sitting there leaking wave 1. Oh, hey man, what's up? Technically, he gave me the mutation modifier and I had dual eco after he joined, but I think Medic dies on wave 3 regardless. Which is pretty funny because Medic tied Demoman. Militant is a pretty decent tower for something like this with all around good stats. It's kinda like Golden Soldier if it was a lot worse, and just spamming level 0 and level 2 Militant could probably get me to wave 7 or die cause that wave is impossible for like no reason. With this train of thought in my mind, I entered the game and, once again, Out of Bears joined. He cursed me with double HP and mutation then left, but I also told him to give me War Machine and Mecha Base so I could test him in this challenge too. I was half joking, but I wouldn't be messing around if I actually got them for this challenge. Apparently, this request planted a seed in his mind, because after I died from his buffoonery, he came into my game and actually gave me the towers? I guess the developers are able to change loadouts, which is totally awesome. The only problem was that you can't even place them unless you're an admin, even if you have them equipped. Assumedly, this is to prevent scripters from placing the towers without even owning them. Fortunately, he worked his magic and somehow whitelisted me to place these towers, and buffoonery ensued. He gave me a lump sum of cash that I could, actually afford the tower, and I placed a War Machine. If you're wondering how far these towers could get in Night 2, well, Wave 2, because they cost a bunch of money. But if you had the money to place them on Wave 1, then War Machine would get to Wave 12, because it doesn't have hidden detection. But Mecha Base would win. Maybe. I don't know if 4 Mecha Base can kill the 400,000 HP conserver. Anyways, Out of Bears continued to do, admin stuff, like spot a mortar at 50,000 DPS and an infinite explosion radius, like usual. There was also a 16 million HP Hexes mob, but that's whatever. Go watch this video if you want to see all the hijinks that occurred in this game. So after that, I kinda just forgot to even use Militant. It wasn't until 6 hours later that, as the literal last tower, I remembered to do Militant. It got to wave 7, unsurprisingly. The next tower is Freezer. Yup, Freezer. 1 damage, stalling tower. You'd think it died in like wave 2 or 3, right? Well, no, it didn't. Freezer got to wave 4, somehow, beating out towers like Demoman, Medic, and Elf Camp. Spoiler alert, I know. Skipping over Rocketeer because it's $2,000, Shotgunner is the next tower. Shotgunner is another tower that excels in the early game and mid game, and I had high hopes for it due to it having both good single target and crowd control DPS. I went into the game and level 2 Shotgunner spam cleared everything easily, except for wave 7 once again, which required some panic Shotgunners to clutch up. It trudged on further, and the clutch gunners came into use again and again. Once I got a dump truck of level 2 shotgunners, I started maxing some of them for their superior range to kill single target enemies. The wave 12 Conjurer was extremely close, and it came down to literally the last shotgunner. If it was alive for a few more seconds, it would have summoned and definitely killed me. On wave 13, I kept all my shotgunners on strongest to maximize DPS on the enemies that needed to be dealt with the most. Unfortunately, this meant that the shotgunners targeted a rotting terror instead of Conjurer that was right next to it, and I leaked the Conjurer with only 337 health remaining, and it summoned and killed me. Shotgunner definitely could have gotten to like wave 15 or 16, but for the purposes of this, I'll just say wave 14 is where Shotgunner died. Trapper is next, and as you may know, Trapper is not a good source of main DPS. Trapper needs a stronger tower like Brawler or Pyromancer to clear out enemies, while Trapper could kill the high HP enemies that leak. So when it's alone, it dies quickly. It was overwhelmed and died on wave 5, though wave 6 is definitely possible. Ace Pilot seems like it'd be amazing for this, but no. It's actually horrible at killing single target enemies. It is very inconsistent as to what it's actually damaging. It died on wave 6 to the floating skulls. Pyromancer is horrible for single target, but great for crowd control. It died to the wave 5 bosses extremely unsurprisingly, though it somehow killed the aggro boss, likely due to the fact that the aggro meant Pyro targeted it fiercely instead of trying to spray fire on every single enemy, which is its default targeting. Due to Pyro killing the first boss, the wave was able to actually skip to wave 6, where it died 5 seconds later to the other boss. Military base is pretty horrible. It gets overwhelmed so easily and it just dies to anything. It died on wave 3, which is worse than Freezer. That's all of the intermediate towers. They have an average wave of 7.1, which is pretty high compared to the others. Onto the advanced category. Mortar sucks. Mortar's like Paintballer, where it sucks horribly for the early game because its splash radius does nothing to the quick enemies in the early game. It doesn't even kill 2 of these slow enemies in one shot. They have 10 HP and Mortar has 12 damage, but due to the stupid splash system, Mortar actually does 5 damage to most of the enemies. It died on wave 3 to aggros. Rest Airbase is next, which is kinda weird because it's lower than Electroshocker in terms of shop order. Anyways, the riflemen were enough to kill the waves until wave 6 with the 1000 HP Hex Revenant. Some clutch riflemen spawned it killed it though. Guess what happened on wave 7? With absolutely no units on the field. It died. Horribly. The aforementioned Electroshocker is up next, and I expected it to die in wave 5 due to it having the syndrome of being a crowd control tower, and that's not a crowd. Unsurprisingly, the first 4 waves were easy because Electroshocker is pretty darn good at killing crowds. Somehow, on wave 5, the Electroshocker stalled the front Hex Revenant enough for the other one to come into splash radius, and so they were doing double damage. This, combined with the stalling effect, made it so that Electroshocker somehow survived the wave 5 bosses. I was pleasantly surprised, but I now saw wave 6 with the 3 flying skulls coming over, and more importantly, the 1000 HP Hex Revenant. I killed the skulls, and when I looked back at the Revenant, I saw a glorious sight. The shockers had synchronized, and were now stunning him with maximum efficiency. This led to me killing the boss and affording a level 3 Electroshocker, which has much more damage than stalling at the cost of fire rate. Then came wave 7. I leaked even more skulls, which I barely survived, and I killed the Hex corpses easily. This clip speaks for itself and my surprise at how far Electroshocker got. How am I alive? How am I alive? How am I alive? Then came a 2000 HP boss that was stun immune. I died. The Cowboy is designed to save tower slots. It makes money and does damage at the same time, so you'd think it'd do well in a 1-slot challenge. Turns out, nope, this tower is mediocre. Normal Cowboy got to wave 7. And then ROBLOX decided to shit the bed and destroy all its servers. Every time I equipped Warden and went into the match, Cowboy was waiting for me. So what could I do in this situation? I still had a stream to keep up, but the game I'm trying to play done shot the bed. Plants vs Zombies. I played Plants vs Zombies for a good 20 minutes while waiting, and I gambled on the slot machines and tried to beat Survival with only pea shooter, just like what I was doing in TDS. Anyways, 20 minutes later and ROBLOX done to unchat the bed, and it actually started working again. So it was time to use Warden. Warden's kind of like Shocker in the sense that it's short range with good ground control and single target DPS. Level 1 Warden spam worked for the first 6 waves, and on wave 7 I got a level 3 Warden. Surprisingly, Warden didn't immediately collapse upon seeing wave 7, and it killed all the enemies. On wave 8 I had to get a few clutch Wardens, even having to sell a few Wardens up at the front. This kinda crippled me for later waves like wave 9 which I leaked, and wave 10 which had the equivalent of a dump truck unloading its massive garbage straight into your face. Warden died on wave 10, and that's all the advanced towers, which was literally 5 towers, cause most of them are support or too expensive. The average wave for the 5 advanced towers that actually, do things is wave 7, which is 0.1 less than the intermediate towers. Now for the hardcore/gem towers, the 3 of them there are. Well, actually 2 because Accelerator is too expensive. No, Necromancer, you do not get to play with the big boys. Go back to the event section where you belong. Brawler is, unsurprisingly, super fucking overpowered. What with its 66 cost efficiency at level 3, which can be compared to Max Golden Scout's 144 cost efficiency. It also has some insane stalling, which is doubly overpowered, and it can also fling itself across the map at level 4. Make that triply overpowered. Well, it also doesn't have hit detection, so it kinda dies to the wave 12 Conjurer. Maybe just doubly overpowered. Engineer is the final, last, concluding, culminating, ultimate hardcore tower. It's the second hardcore tower. It may be shocking to you that Engineer is a jack of all trades tower. Look, it costs $750 here but costs $35,000 here. That's so early game and late game at the same time. A few early game waves are close, like the always fucking impossible wave 7 and also wave 10, but it was mostly cool beans. Once I got max Engineer, it was mostly over for the mid game waves. Except it somehow wasn't because wave 14 got a little close. Wave 16 was easy, and on wave 17 I got all 6 max Engineers. I bought all the computer parts by wave 18, and it was time for wave 20, which I couldn't really do much about, because it's hard to get creative when you can only play 6 of the one tower you have. All I did was micro engineers to the front so that I could get a little head start on DPS. The conserver spawned, and the front engineers helped a little bit, I guess, because he was down like 40,000 HP by the time he got into the range of the main DPS. But alas, the 2,400 DPS of 4 engineers really never was enough to kill the conserver, and he leaked with a paltry 160,000 HP. That concludes the long saga of the hardcore category. and the average weight for these two towers is 16, which is fucking insane, but it kinda makes sense where you pair an overpowered early mid-game obliterator with a jack of all trades that can beat anything. The event towers are next, which there's way too many of, but fortunately for the compactness of this video, they're all absolutely garbage and all die in the first 7 waves. The Commando is the most expensive event tower, costing $1,600 to place. This makes it able to place on wave 2, which is a shame because I'd rather have not even tried it at all. I died on wave 2, which is pretty insane because this is literally the only tower that does damage and still dies on wave 2. Elf Camp is a similar tale of tragedy, but slightly less so as it isn't so gut-wrenchingly awful as Commando. Elf Camp was able to get to wave 4 in its last legs, so very distinguished. Stormer is a buggy mess that doesn't even work on a fundamental level. It's supposed to apply a damage over time effect on as many enemies as it can, kinda like Pyromancer, but it seems to attack an enemy that already has the effect, making it useless. And the strat where you put it to random or strongest like on Toxic Gunner doesn't even work because this thing has 1.5 fire rate. Given all this, I'm surprised it even made it to wave 4. Not like that's a very impressive goal. Executioner is better than all the bozos before him, but not by much. Unsurprisingly, he died to the wave 5 bosses due to the being only good at killing huge hordes of zombies and literally nothing else syndrome. Though he did manage to kill the one boss that had aggro on it, so the wave skipped to 6 before he lost. Good for him. Sludger missed at almost the same rate as Demoman, and it was arguably even more infuriating than Demoman because Sludger is actually decent for stuff like this, with its good crowd control and slowing. It's also infuriating that level 1 Sludger does 15 damage, and this guy right here has 16 health, resulting in either leaking 1 HP or wasting 14 damage. Sludger slowly bled base HP, and it died on wave 3 due to not knowing up from down when sludging that hammer. Archer is also horrible and stupid, but it's slightly less horrible and stupid than I thought. Level 1 Archer spam barely got me to wave 4, where I tried to get a level 3 Archer with superior piercing damage, but it was too late. I was already cooked. It died on wave 4. Jester is another horrible and stupid event tower that does like 0 damage and died on wave 3 after leaking everything. You noticing a pattern here? You'd think Crymancer would die on wave 2 due to not doing any damage, but it actually gets some damage over time at level 2, which has 4 DPS. So, I did the only thing I could, and I covered the map in level 2 Crymancers. This is fine and dandy for the first 4 waves, as they're all crowds, but once again, wave 5 came, and the bosses got to the end with 200 HP. Funnily enough, I didn't even die to the bosses itself, because these guys waltzed on in, and they literally couldn't even get damage because they had the no freeze immunity. It died on wave 6. Gladiator's next, and you know how it goes. Splash Tower, wave 5, yeah, it's dead. I actually had hope in Toxic Gunner to get past wave 7, because its crowd control DPS is actually insane, and it obliterated the first 4 waves easily, but it has 2 major weaknesses. Aggro enemies make it unable to apply its poison to other enemies, and single target enemies are just hard to kill. There's a 500 HP Hex Revenant on wave 5 that has aggro. Frost Blaster, Crowd Control Tower, died on wave 5. Actually, it didn't even die to the bosses. It died to... The Slasher killed both of the wave 5 bosses. This is the first and only event tower to do this. But then it lost to the skulls on wave 6, so you know, you win some, you lose some. I could have microed more to kill the skulls, but I would have died to the 1000 HP Hex Revenant anyway, so like, you know. The last event tower is the Necromancer, which struggled really hard because it takes like 3 years to place its damn graves for some reason. I tried to balance actually having graves active and not leaking, but it's hard to do that when the main Necromancer does like nothing and is spending half its time on placing more graves. I died on wave 4. That is the end of the sad and pitiful existence of the event towers. It's really a downer seeing all of these towers die on like wave 3 and 4. The average of wave for event towers is wave 4. That's lower than Sniper. That's really sad. The next category, but not really, are Golden Towers, since I didn't want to group them up with their respective categories. Now, I haven't really been talking about what type of stuff the livestream was actually on about at this time, so I just need to catch you up for a bit. Basically, the stream started worshipping Fiend because of that Crook Boss skin from earlier, which branched out to many other intellectual discussions about Fiend. Wait, I'm gonna use the Fiend skin. What's the most Fiend skin? Oh shit. Guys, I think I need to buy Phantom Scout. I need to buy Phantom Scout. It's pretty like I need to buy it. I need to buy it. Yes, dude. Alright, let's go. Anyways, the first Golden Tower is Golden Scout, which is pretty amazing for stuff like this. It just obliterated all the earlier waves. Wave 7 and 10 were a little close, but whatever. The Wave 12 Conjure and Wave 16 Hexasmal were killed, and the so-called Fiend Scout was looking up. Wave 7 wasn't too hard, and I had 40 max Golden Scouts. I fixed up the computer, but the 50,000 HP Hexasmal on Wave 18 was looking rough. I had to move a lot of scouts, and it was extremely close, but I did not die. On Wave 19, there was another close call, but the power of Fiend saved me once again. Though I was certainly to die to the Conjurer, I had one hope, that it didn't kill me in time, and that the wave skipped to 20. No! Fiend Scout gets to Wave 20 anyways, because of the skip times. Unless this guy summons and I die. Please. Yes! Wave 20! Fiend Scout gets to Wave 20! Next is Golden Soldier, which I've already done and made an entire video on. It killed everything easily up to Wave 20, but it dies there with about 90,000 HP remaining. I retried it just for the stream though, and I forgot to power the supercomputer, which was pretty funny. Next is Golden Pyromancer, which obliterated the first 4 waves and unsurprisingly died to the Wave 5 bosses. Oh wait, never mind, I survived on 15 HP. And then I died to the Flying Skulls on Wave 6. Oh wait, never mind, I survived on 12 HP. Then I died to the Bloated Hex Revenant on Wave 7, for real this time. Golden Cowboy isn't even that much better than normal Cowboy for this, so it's unsurprising it did the exact same thing its nephew did, which is kill the first 6 waves then get trampled by Wave 7. Golden Crook Boss obliterated the first 15 waves, but Wave 7 got far because of course it did. I guess Wave 16 is a massive difficulty spike or something, because not only did Crook Boss die to it, but Golden Crook Boss also died to it, which is kinda crazy. That's all of the Golden Towers, and also all towers in TDS done. The average wave the Golden Towers got to is Wave 13, which is almost as bonkers as the Hardcore category, having an average of 16. The average wave of every TDS tower is 8.85, which would be about 10 if event towers didn't exist. In conclusion, Normal Scout is better than every single event tower. If you disagree, please provide proof in a 1,000-word essay in the comments below. You will be graded harshly.